pukul 9 sesuai dengan jadwal rutin kita di program GRIS. Kita mulai tepat waktu saja. Mohon izin untuk on cam yang memungkinkan, karena pembicara kita sudah hadir bersama kita hari ini. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam.
Good morning, everyone, and also for our special speaker today. Good morning, Associate Professor Dr. Zulhamri Abdullah.
Yeah, good morning.
And today we will have our special session about the quantitative research method as part of Kemah Research Program held by Pasca Sarjana Universitas Negeri Jakarta. We have all the participants here, and I will host this session today. And we would like to appreciate and thank our special speaker, Dr. Zulhamri Abdullah, Associate Professor Dr. Zulhamri Abdullah, with the specialties in corporate communication and entrepreneurship, who finished the PhD in Cardiff, United Kingdom, in Cambridge, United Kingdom. So you did twice your PhD?
No, one is a PhD, the other one is the other academic qualification.
Okay, wow, it's really amazing to have those in United Kingdom as well. And then, sir, we would like to thank you for your kindness to join us, your sharing session. Hopefully, this participant is from postgraduate student who take the master degree and also doctoral degree. So basically, the student in the end of the journey doing the research and the dissertation and the mini thesis. So that's kind of like the more information about our participant, but sometimes the student who start the PhD or the master degree also join this program. So, but most of them are doing the dissertation and the mini thesis. And I would take the time more, and we just start our session immediately. Please, Dr. Zulhamri Abdullah, the floor is yours.
Okay. Assalamualaikum, very good morning. Thank you very much to our pengerusi, Ade Dewi Utami. All right. Sorry if I pronounce your names weirdly. All right. Okay. I think I'm so glad that we'll meet again. I think this is second times I did guest lecture with Universitas Negeri Jakarta, right? So welcome to Papa, Ibu-ibu, all right, and also all the students, adik-adik, yeah. So I think that I miss Jakarta so much. Yeah, it's been, I think that's a couple of years not been able to travel to Jakarta, Bandung, and some of other Asians, I think that the country. I've been traveled to the Jakarta many times before the pandemic. I think that for some reasons, especially for, of course, that for working, for conferences, research. I love to visit the Universitas Jakarta, maybe sometimes next year. Okay, perhaps.
You'll be waiting, sir.
Yeah, so be able, I think that I love to do the physical, I think that's, the lecture rather than online, or we can do the hybrid. Now it's quite popular. We can do the hybrid and make it is a global classroom rather than just, I think that, with this. But this is, I think that we do the very specific for the, I've been told that for the postgraduate students, right? Universitas Negeri Jakarta, all right. And then we, I think the S2, right? So that's what we call it. S1 for the bachelor degree, S2 for postgraduate.
True.
All right, let's get started, right? Okay, this is a poster that you did for me. Thank you very much. Right, so the waktu Malaysia now, I think about 10 o'clock. We have 1 hour. I think that's difference. 9 o'clock in Universitas Jakarta. All right. Okay. I think that's we straight to the point. Okay, right. But before I started, I'm also teaching the qualitative, the communication research design at the postgraduate level, especially PhD student. We have a huge number of a PhD student, especially from China now. Even this semester, we have a new 95 PhD students. We and also have two from Jakarta, from the Indonesia also, a PhD student studying with the University Putra Malaysia. The University Putra Malaysia is a research university, so we focus more on the research. So I've been doing this thing that almost more than 15 years. Okay, and I'm lecturing for the research design, qualitative research method, and quantitative, qualitative also research method. I can do the lecture on the qualitative research method as well, but this one we do a specific for the quantitative research method only. Okay, all right. Maybe later we can have the session, other session for the qualitative. So, but to me that it's good that we know both. I think that method, but I will. I think that make it. I think that we focus on the quantitative, and perhaps postgraduate students, they will focus on the dissertation or the thesis. Yeah, so they need to understand the research design. Yeah? And then because later the university will appoint the examiners. Yeah, so examiners will you need to defend. Yeah? We call it a viva. So you need to defend your thesis in the viva session. So that is a normal process in all countries, not only in Malaysia, but I think that's a same practice in all countries. Recently, I also been invited to become the external examiner for the university from Pakistan, the State University of Pakistan. So perhaps later I'll be invited to be the external examiner for the University Negeri Jakarta. So we see that. Okay, let's get started. When we come to the research design, the focus on the studies will be the descriptive and causal studies, especially for the quantitative. So that I think the very basic for the quantitative. Yeah, because the quantitative, we need to measure. Measurement is a very important. Yeah, it just for the person who like mathematics. Okay, maybe I don't like mathematics, but I like numbers. So some I think that maybe they are the person. This also depend on the personality of the person. If you are the personality kind of the person that like something that objective, all right, something that concrete, logic, I think that. So the quantitative will provide you this. But if you like something that more critical, I think that you're going to ask about why, how, deep, and then the quantitative is not suitable for you. Yeah, you need to choose the qualitative. So in the qualitative, there is I think that many the type of the research methods that you can explore. For the quantitative, I think this is also for the industry, for the postgraduate who want to join the industry. So the mostly industry, they like the quantitative because it's a numbers, so easy to measure. So most I think that the companies, they like, I think that's to measure, I think the attitudes, the behavior, the phenomena, and you provide the results. Okay, so this is a good. Or you want to be the academics later on. So this is also a very good thing. That's research types, methods that you want to choose. All right. The quantitative research, basically, we come up with a survey, right? It's a survey questionnaire. Basically, then you do the questionnaire, and then I'm going to show you step by step. Okay. We have, I think, about 1 hour 45 minutes only. I don't be able to show you all of this. So try to give, I think, that as much as I can, but especially that our objective that you know what is the basic elements of the quantitative research method. That's number one. Okay, number two, what is the instrument we're going to use, like a survey, questionnaire, interviews, you know, and how going to do this approach. I'm going to show you some, I think, examples. So I think that's quite important. And then a bit about the questionnaire, how to develop the good questionnaire. What I think that important there. How about the hypothesis? Because at S2, you need to come up with a hypothesis. You need to do a bit extra, not only descriptive. To me, for the S1, so the descriptive analysis is enough. All right. For the S2, you need to have both descriptive and causal analysis, meaning that inferential. We call it inferential. I'm going to show you about that. Okay. So the questionnaire, advantages and disadvantages, and the type of the question. What type of the question that you can develop, you can construct. Okay. So that this is going to be a very, very scientific study. So at this stage, develop, I think that the questions is a very, very vital. And then the scaling responses. What I think that, you know, the measurement scale they're going to use. So this also depends on the question they're going to develop. All right. And then the question placement. I think a bit about the issues of the survey research. You need to know about that because at the end of your thesis or dissertation, you need to write the limitation of the study, right? So limitation of the study that you're going to declare that what I think that, you know, maybe something that missing in your research. So this, I think that we do the parameters policy. When we do the survey, we need to, I think that, you know, create the parameters of our study as well. Okay. Let's move on to research definition. The research design is a framework or the blueprint for conducting a research project or dissertation or thesis. I think that I think that's another name. It details the procedures necessary for obtaining the information needed to structure or solve research problem. So the most important thing when you develop your research design, you need to have the problem statement. But we're not going to learn about the problem statement in this class. Yeah. So it's too short for me because the problem statement also going to have like 2 or 3 hours to discuss about that. I think that's, you know, literally, I think that mentioned about that. So maybe your professors also, I think that, you know, explain about it. It's a problem statement. Make sure that you know about that. And if we can see the research design is going to be have some, I think that, you know, the types like this, exploratory research design. Okay, this more to the qualitative actually. Conclusive research design. Another, I think that's terms we use is a conclusive research design. So under the research, conclusive research design, or we call it a quantitative research design, you have the descriptive research and the causal research, right? So under the descriptive research, you can study about the cross-sectional design or the longitudinal design. Okay, so this, I think that when we mapping the research design, but I'm going to, this is going to take like, you know, 1 semester to explain all of this. I just show you, I think some the broad area of the research design issue. So today we're only going to focus on descriptive research and also the causal research. All right. Okay. Descriptive research to describe the characteristic of relevant groups, okay, such as a consumer, a salesperson. So this covers, I think, about your demography. Normally in the questionnaire, make sure that you have a demography. It's going to ask, I think, the question like, cannot ask about the names of the person. Yeah, it is like taboo. Okay, you've not been asked be able because we want to make it our questionnaire anonymous. So you have just, I think, that asking about the age, yeah, the incomes, you know, and then maybe some, I think, that relevance about the salary, marital status, and so on. All right. So that the characteristics of the, so you may have to make sure that who's your respondent at this stage, yeah. And then estimate the percentage unit in specific population. So who's your population? You need to have that. You cannot just say that the whole Jakarta, the whole Indonesia. Yeah, so we need to have a very specific. For example, that if you study about, you know, the health attitude, for example, yeah, health literacy, for example. So then you need to have a population. I know that people care about health. Some maybe don't, but the population here, you might, I think, that select, I think, maybe in the online community in Facebook. So they maybe, I think, that have some, like, you know, the a specific group, like, yeah, so diet group. So that could be a population. Yeah. So in that case, maybe in the community group, they have like 20,000 people, users. So that for the online study. For the specific, I think that maybe if you are a student, I think that you want to study in the, maybe the customers of pharmaceutical companies, for example. So then that could be the population. Who's the customers of this population, right? So then this can be the online or can be the offline. I think that's, you know, when you determine your population and make sure that you know that what, you know, the samples that you have. To determine the perception of the product characteristic. So this is also easier. So that's why I say that, you know, the descriptive analysis, descriptive research, the industry like this. Yeah. So the, if you work, maybe after your graduate, you work with, you know, the Nestle, for example. Okay, Nestle, I think that you work in the research department. So research department, your supervisor or your, I think that's, you know, your employer going to ask you, can you do the survey, all right, about, I think, that the consumers who buy our product in Jakarta and how many of them, I think, that's like our product. So that is a perception. Only that you just come up with, you know, the mean, mode, medium, thing that, you know, the analysis. So as simple as that. Yeah. So they determine the degree to which your marketing variables are associated. So we also can see that what are the variables, you know. So if you study about, you know, the marketing variable, like, you know, the corporate image, could be talking about the reputation, trust, loyalty, the purchasing attitude, for example. You can study about the, you know, many things like social media content. So that is also, you can see that to what degree, yeah, degree of, I think, that in terms of the importance, unimportant about the variables that you want to study. Okay, right. And then to make a specific prediction, you'll be able to make a specific prediction. When we got, I think that's, you know, we normally the descriptive data, we come up with, you know, the nice, I think, infographics results, like using the bar chart. Yeah, can use the bar chart and then the pie chart. So that, then I think that's, you know, how many percent in Jakarta, I think that's, you know, using the maybe the Johnson & Johnson product, for example. So you can see that, okay, will be a 73% using the Johnson & Johnson's, I think, a baby oils, yeah, in the Jakarta. So that is, then we can easily to make a prediction, all right? Or think that, you know, the people in Jakarta, they like, I think, that, you know, buying these particular products. So that is, maybe you want to do a comparison between the Western product and the local product. So you can do that comparison as well. So that is a prediction. So there's so thing that, you know, things it is easy analysis and easy for the industry to understand that. Okay, right. That is a very basic. I'm sure that this also you learn in the during the S2 when you do the final year project. Okay, and okay, what is considered is a bit advanced for the quantitative analysis. We call it, you have to use the causal inferential research. So this part will be, I think, that's a bit tough for postgraduate student, but it is a must. Yeah, So normally, I think that it is quite important for postgraduate students. So this also the differences between the S1 and S2 dissertation. For the S2, you need to have the causal research. The causal research here is a bit more, yeah. So you need to identify the IV, we call it as the IV and DV. Okay. What is the IV? IV is independent variable and DV is a dependent variable. And there is also other variable also, we call it a moderating variable, mediating variable. So in this session, I won't be able to explain more about this. I just want to explain about IV and DV only. Hopefully, this I think that we give the open. I think that I think that your minds, because the mediating variable, moderating variable is a bit advanced at this stage. Yeah, maybe for the post PhD level, yes, you need to have that. But I will focus on the IV, which is called a cost. You can see here the cost. The cost is like, I think that something that you want to do. Yeah, what you're going to do in your own initiative. Yeah. Okay. So for example, that we are, for example, you feel hungry. Okay. When you feel hungry, so we want to eat. For the eating habit is a cause, right? So that what is a dependent variable? Dependent variable is an effect. Is the impact of the phenomenon. I think this is a very basic. Some, I think that the postgraduate student, even the PhD student also, they still don't understand. Yeah, what is the IV and DV? But it's a very, very important to understand at this stage first, before you learn about other variables like moderating variable, mediating variable. This basic IV and DV you must understand. Yeah, for the causal inferential analysis. Otherwise, you get into trouble later. Okay. So and then we can, I think that's the impact, the effect. It can be something that the performance, technology adoption. We're talking about the purchase intention. We're talking about the word of mouth intention. So this something that affects. So don't mix up with, I think that's differences between the IV and DV. So we can, I think that it is, I think that maybe you need to make it a formula that this effects is something that cause to the obesity, for example. Eating habit, yeah, is a IV, and the dependent variable is a obesity. So the more you eat, yeah, the higher that I think your potential to be, I think, that obesity. Okay, so maybe we can replace this. If you understand this, IV and DV easily. So that is a very, very important. For example, that okay, so maybe I get the obesity because I eat so much. All right. What about, I think that's I want to become, I think that healthy lifestyle. Okay. So healthy lifestyle is the effects. So how you, I think that having, I think that's very a good, I think there's a physics. I think that's also what cause, what is the factors that will cause you, will give you an impact that you have a body fit. I think that's maybe muscular, something like that is the effect, right? So we need to have a diet, for example. Yeah, exercise in the gym. So this is, I think, that the cause. So easy, I think that's if you understand what is the IV and DV, so you can apply this to any phenomenon in the, I think that's in the study. So whether you are studying in the health communication, you study in the corporate communication, study the marketing communication, you always can, I think that's so please, I think that I hope that after this session, all of you would understand what is the IV and DV. All right, let's move on. To determine the nature of the relationship between the causal variables and the effect to be predicted. Okay, that is for the we study about the relationship here. Okay, first is what is a relationship? We want to know that the status of relationship between the IV and DV, causal variables, right? So what is the effect that to be predicted? So that is a come from the problem statement. What is the problem that we're having? What is the problem that maybe companies are having today? Yeah, whether maybe they're having crisis, or maybe they're having, I think that's So these are come from literature. You need to check literature. What I think that's not the problems that accounted, right? In this case, so you can, we can analyze the relationship. First, I think that whether you want to know the positive or negative relationship. Second, we want to know the strength of the relationship. Okay, so this will lead to the analysis. We call it inferential analysis. All right. So in this case, don't mix up with descriptive. Descriptive is only numbers, percentage. So we have the percentage with numbers only. So that one is a very basic, okay, basic statistic. So we don't learn about the statistic today also, but I need to mention about the statistic a bit because it is related to what you want to construct. Because when you develop your research objective, you need to know what I think that the objective that's suitable for the research. So research objective is different between the business objective, right? So in this case, you maybe can develop that to determine. Okay, we take example of about the health to determine the eating habit, the relationship between the eating habit and obesity. Okay, as simple as that. So when you construct your research objective like that, so we can, the examiner will see that, oh, this is an IV and DV. So you must be able to connect this between these two, right? The relationship between the variable 1 and variable 2. Right. Let's move on. So this, I think, using maybe a survey or experiment. Normally in the quantitative, we always use a survey questionnaire, or we can do the experiments also. All right. Okay. The task involved in research designs, normally you need to have the topics. What are the topics that you study? All right. So the topic study is quite important. Pick your topics. Depend, I think that in the social sciences, yeah. So we have study about the psychology, study about the management, study about the business, maybe health communication, and so many things, yeah. So and then the topics, then you will design what I think that research phases that you want to study, whether the exploratory study, descriptive, and or causal phases of the research. Okay, so and then you need to specify the measurement, the scaling process. So at this stage, when you need to highlight that what topics that you study, and then what is a problem statement. After that, you must be able to construct the research question and research objective. Right? Research objective is very, very important. At least 3 research objective, and then after that, you're going to have that, you know, the measurement. Right? So then you construct the questionnaire. After that, you need to have the sampling process, the sampling size. Where are you going to do the online or are you going to do the hybrid? Okay, during this pandemic, I think that normally we do the online. So when you do the online, maybe I think that, you know, so in my experience, we do it with the community, Facebook community. So for example, in Malaysia, we have a lot. I think the growth of Facebook or the social media community, I think that's, you know, huge. I think that's, they have a lot. I think that's the group. So in that case, I think that you can do it. So my latest study research project, I just done it on the about the IT literacy. Yeah, IT literacy for the we have the Center of Internet. So the Center Internet's developed by the MCMC, our Multimedia and Communication Commission. So we have a state. Yeah? So they have the Center of Internet in every state. So in that state, they also have the online and also offline. So they have, I think, that physical building for the Center of Internet. We developed that in every, not only the state also, but also in the thing that in the regions, particular area. So in that case, I think that they have a huge number. I think the hundreds, you know, thousands of the, you know, the people there. Yeah. So we gather that, I think, about information about 2,000, I think, the population there, and it's easy for us to find the sample size. And then develop the plan of the data analysis. Okay. Normally for data analysis, we use the SPSS. So I hope that later you're going to learn about the SPSS, right? Okay, how to develop the hypothesis in this case? Does it accurately test the hypothesis? Does it identify and control external factors? Are results generalizable? Can the hypothesis be rejected or retained via the statistical means? Is the design efficient in using the available resources? So this, I think that's very important. Hypothesis development for the postgraduate dissertation, right? So if we just, I think, rely on this descriptive analysis, so I think that make it your research. I think that one is a very basics research on. Okay, so the hypothesis development is quite important. Some maybe you only have the research question, yeah, but hypothesis development better because it will, I think, will focus on the more on the operationalization part of this. Yeah, so your research become more theoretical when you have that hypothesis. Okay, let's focus one by one. When we want to develop testing the hypothesis, when I say about the hypothesis here, it's about the causal variables, okay? Between the variables, relationship between the variables. So does it accurately test the hypothesis? Okay, so when you develop, I think that this also, you need to learn how to develop the research objective that require you to have to develop the hypothesis. Okay, so if we just want to say that, all right, I want to study to determine the factors of determining the IT literacy in the West Java, for example. So if just a factor analysis, then maybe you can just use a factor analysis only. Is this still, I think that, maybe you can use a descriptive analysis. You just want to know that you can come up with, I think, that the IT literacy, for example, that they need to have the accessibility internet, for example. You can just come up with, some answers and it just, I think, that ticks the box. Okay, that's not hypothesis, right? So when you want to develop a hypothesis, make sure that it is about the relationship only, right? Okay, so in your research objective, you have the hypothesis, so you will test this hypothesis if you, in the research objective, you want to analyze the relationship. Okay, let's start, I think, that with the hypothesis determine the participants' variable measured and data analysis method. For example, the hypothesis tested the student project, all right, and the discussion and requirements of a proposal. So maybe I think that the having the groups assignments, okay, will I think, the influence a higher student's grade, for example. So higher student grade, the grade is an effect. That's considered the IV, DV. So the IV is a student's group assignments. So in that case, I think that you can measure this, right? So maybe I will show you some, I think, that the examples. Example that's just a quick example between the IV and DV, right? Let's see here. Okay, so when you study about the perhaps okay, maybe about the attitudes, attitude of the peoples, yeah. So that also will determine the attitudes in about the purchasing attitude. All right, people like to buy products from the Shopee, okay, buy the products, and that will lead to the, it could be, we can say that purchasing intention. Okay. Okay, so the purchasing attitude, what I think the attitudes that you have. Do you like, I think, that buying the products? So that attitude, that is your initiative. Okay, so what are your thinkings? Yeah, so you are not buying yet, but then I think that's, you are considering some, I think that's, the factors. So then purchasing intention, that's considered something that you want to buy. So for example, that you want to buy something that your attitude, okay, you are now, I think that maybe have a new hobby, right? So new hobby, you want to do something about road biking or something. So when you do the road biking, you need to purchase some of the important equipment. So this, I think that will lead to the purchasing intention in the shop. Right. And other thing that's, we can see that about the environmental concern. How about the environmental concern? Maybe we can change this to the attitude, for example. Yeah. Environmental attitude to the, what is the effect? The effect about the, you can see that environmental awareness. Yeah, environmental awareness. Yeah. Or you can change this to the something that's maybe it could be also, we can say, like green initiative. Right. You're going for to the mall. I think it's a shopping mall, and then going to buy the groceries, and then you are bring, I think that's, maybe you don't, I think, you use plastic bags. You bring your own bags. So that is your green initiative. Yeah. So green initiative towards, I think that's, maybe you plant some things, so that also considered. So that also will create the environmental, I think that's awareness. Or we can say that, I think that you have more, I think that the in terms of adoption also quite, maybe I think that's, could be the other words for the effects. So always remember that when we say about, the IV is referred to the cost, right? And EV effects or impacts, right? So we can say that also in terms, but some, I think that when you use, the words like innovation, how about the people use the words, I think that innovation, yeah, innovation. When you have, I think that the more, I think the innovation, this will increase the business performance. You can see that, the performance. Okay. Right. So in this case, when you have this, you're going to have, I think that's maybe some problem with this. Okay. To make it that, So because when you say about the innovation, it's just too broad. You see? So the what I think the innovation you're talking about? Are you talking about the personality? Are you talking about the awareness? Are you talking about, I think that's, the something about the I think that alertness? What it is? So you need to have a theory. That's why the theoretical model is a very, very important here. You cannot just mention about the innovation only. Make it, I think that's, big here. The purchasing attitude. Let's say if I just mention about the attitude only, it's a lot of attitudes. You need to make it specific. When you develop the hypothesis, make it very, very specific. That's why your hypothesis always be rejected. Yeah, your hypothesis, I think that's not been a thing that been accepted, and you are measuring something that's, it's not give, I think that's, the results, because you have to make it this specific. You see, purchasing attitude, only your attitude about buying, We are talking about the purchasing attitude only. Then that is okay. If we just mention about the attitude only, that's what's wrong. Same with, I think, the intention. We can say about the purchasing intention. We also can say about, I think, that something different, because there's a lot of intention. Yeah, not only about the purchasing intention. You also can, I think I can change that about the environmental intention. Yeah, I can. So you can, I think that you need to spice the words, make it this a more specific. Environmental attitude, you see? So environmental attitude and purchasing are two different things. I can change it to the environmental alertness. How alert are you when you see that people, I think, that just throwing a rubbish? Yeah, so you are, I think, that's concerned that, hey, what kind of this attitude of this person? They have an environmental attitude. You see? Green initiative. I think that make it more. I think this is acceptable, but I think that try to make it, I think, find a better variable for this. Yeah, and adoption. I think that make it, I think, more specific. It could be say that, like, yeah, I think I would say that technological adoption. Okay. So meaning that the adoption, meaning that we are get used to using this. Yeah. Yeah. So techno. Okay. So in that case, that is about, we are talking about the IT using, I think, that the text. You get used to using the text, yeah? the technology like smartphone. You can make it as more specific to the smartwatch, smartphone, you know, or any, I think that's others. Okay. Innovation here, this is not complete, yeah? I'll say that, yeah, it is not complete. So you have to make it this a more specific. For example, that we're talking about the innovation personality. Okay, right. This is the right word that we're looking for. Yeah, innovation personality. About the performance, again, performance is too many performance. So we can say about the business performance. Okay, we can mention about the business performance here. Or we can say about there something that maybe you're going to look at the social performance. Or you can, I think that maybe you will specify that in your hypothesis later on. You mean that business performance, and then you are referring to the financial performance. Yeah, financial performance. You can divide this into two, no problems. Yeah, and social performance. Sorry. All right. So you can study about these two. Yeah, in this case. Business performance and financial performance. This case. Okay, you can take photos if you like, so that you remember later on. Yeah. I try to make it this maybe a bit small. Yeah. Okay, then it's fine here, right? Then I make it, you have to make it more specific so that people understand that. Okay, so this is a thing about performance. So when you develop the hypothesis, you can say that, okay, hypothesis number one, okay, hypothesis number one, there is a relationship between innovation. Normally we don't call it innovation. We need to have that this adjective, innovative. All right, change it to the innovative. Innovation, innovative personality between the and financial performance. Okay, yeah. Then you have that one objective. So, but you have a two sub variable here. So you can make it, I think that's, maybe hypothesis A1, hypothesis 1B. So it just, I think that's copy here. Make it this a copy here, relationship, and change to the source of performance. Right. Yeah, as simple as that. Okay. So you already have this, I think that the hypothesis that you will develop. Okay. So other, I think, hypothesis you can develop. Hypothesis 2, for example. Okay. Purchasing attitude will influence purchasing intention. Okay. Then this, I think that you can link to the plan behavior theory. So there is a lot of theory. I'm going to teach, the advanced communication theory next semester, right? So then I think that you will understand that how we develop, we determine we see here the variables, okay, the IV and DV, all right, and how we connect this, yeah, how we see the relationship, how we going to develop. So in this case, okay, I'm going to show you how we develop this. Maybe your research objective. Okay, back to the we can doing a research. It's not just literally from A to Z. No, it can be also the mapping strategy. We can backward, we can forward. All right, I can develop the objective about this. Let's say here the objective 1. I will say that to determine, right, the relationship between, all right, just copy this one, right? Innovative personality and I would say that business performance. See? Done. Okay? You got it? I'll make it this a purple color so that you will, understand that. So when examiners see that, okay, you have the hypothesis, they read your objective first to determine the relationship between innovative personality and business performance. Okay, when they read the later chapters, okay, the following chapters, okay, you develop the hypothesis. There is a relationship between the innovative personality and the financial performance. And there's a relationship between the innovative personality and social performance. So they will connect this, align. Okay, we see that your objective align with the hypothesis we develop. Okay, so that is how, then I think that this also again that lead back to the problem statement. What is the problem statement? So in the literature, there is a lack of study about the innovation. So I think that they relate to the performance. Normally people that develop they have, I think, the good personality, but maybe they don't have, I think, that the innovative personality. So you can check in maybe in the literature, find the literature what I think that's, the meanings of the innovative personality. All right. And maybe you can explore more about that. So that, then I think that, okay, this lead to your data analysis. And then later that when you do the discussion, lead back, I think that's, check again what I think that the theory that are connecting to this. All right. It sounds simple, right? Okay, right. So I just give, I think that the very quick, how to develop the simple research objective and then the hypothesis, and then later you will measure it. Okay, make it, it is aligned, all right? And then I think that's so that will, I think, answer that testing the hypothesis. All right. Does it identify control extraneous factors? Eliminate the alternative explanation for result to include the confident and cause effect conclusion, internal validity. So normally, if you want to do the, I think that's, we're talking about the control extraneous factors. That is external variables. That is you are not intentionally studying in your experimental test. So the one that I show you, perhaps you see that, oh, these are innovative personalities, maybe in the lot of in literature. In business performance, also a lot in literature. So what are these things that may be variable, maybe not been, I think, that tested yet? Is quite, maybe you want to, you are beyond that, your controls. You don't know about that, So what I think that's, maybe but it is, I think, that maybe mentioned in the Jakarta, for example. Yeah. So what are others, I think, that the control extraneous that you maybe can identify? So I think that maybe you're talking about innovative personality, yes, but it could be also we maybe, I think, that maybe need to lead to our cultures. All right. So our cultural, maybe a religious, could be a religious activities, but it is not in the literature, but it's something that important. Why I think that, for example, that we study about the Muslim women shopping, for example. Okay, so the Muslim, okay, as a Muslim, you need to understand that, okay, if you want to buy the product, it's free from the pox, all right, so free from alcohol. But maybe this is not in literature. Okay, so that you create something that extraneous variable, you need to have that measurement as well. Yeah, okay, you can measure that whether, so this is a religious sensitivity, for example, so that is a variable. Religious sensitivity will influence the business performance of the product, or maybe the purchase intention. Okay. So that, I think, that maybe you will look at the internal validity. Yeah. So that it could be. So our result about the generalization. Okay. When we talk about the quantitative method, we always, I think, question about the generalization, meaning that we are seeing that, okay, the population, okay, the population, I think that the whole Jakarta, how many people in the Jakarta? Anyone? How many people? Do you know that? 50, could be a 10,000, I think the more than, I think, is it 50,000 or maybe 1 million? I'm not sure. Okay, let's say we have the 100,000 people.
That's 12 million.
Yeah?
12 million people in Jakarta.
Millions. Okay.
Yeah.
We have the samplings measurement. All right. So no matter if I think that even the billions, the sample we can use the Craigie and Morgan's table. We can use some, I think, that the Israel table to determine the sample and population. In that case, we want to know the whole Jakarta, for example. If we study about something about, maybe about the I don't know, maybe in Malaysia we use the My Sejahtera. When we, I think, that's going to the mall, we need to scan the My Sejahtera and then show that we have the fully vaccinated, and I think with the 14 days. Okay, I don't know, I think that whether in Jakarta, if you have those, I think that I think the apps, so maybe you also can use it. Or maybe you can say that, okay, 2 doses. So we know that maybe 12 people in Jakarta, there could be a group of the vaccine, okay, the pro-vaccine, the group of the anti-vaccine, okay. So you want to know that, okay, in this sample, all right, so we want to know that, but you want to study about the pro-vaccine only. You don't want, I think, that's study about the anti-vaccine group. So in this case, you can have that, the 1 and 3 question in your question. So are you vaccinated? If they say that yes, then this person will be able to answer your question. If the person has said that no, so this person will disqualify to answer the question. So that also one of the important aspect, how you do the generalizable. All right, to make it that the sample is 12,000 people in Jakarta. How many people that vaccinated, for example? Okay, you want to study those sample only. You don't want to include that, those I think the anti-vaccine. This example, I'm talking about examples only. Okay, so that you need to have the criteria for your sampling, your respondent. Similar, I think that when you want to study for the workers, for example, immigration workers. All right, so legal immigration and non-legal. So you need to have these entry questions. Okay, those I think that answer, maybe because I think that when you distribute the questionnaire, you do not answer. You quite hard to I think that determine who's I think that the vaccinated, who's not. So that's why I think that when they answer this question, you understand that, oh, this person. Then later, maybe you got the 1,050 questionnaire, all right, written. But there is a 50 questionnaire there, is the person saying that the entry question, this person, I think that no, they said that they are not vaccinated yet. So you need to disclude this 50 respond. So you only have the valid 1,000 only respond only. So then make it this, your sample that representative, the whole population that you're what I think that's not you determine here. So this I think that, and then after that, when you do the sampling, so you can do the random sampling participant, or you can do the field experiments, enhancing the external validity. For the experiment, we don't need I think that many. All right, experiment is a small numbers only. Okay, for the sample, yes, we have need I think that at least I would say that more than for the S1 could be a 150 enough, or 100 I think over is okay. But for the S2, at least you need to 200 valid response, because later you need also to do the advanced analysis. Yeah, advanced analysis meaning that you use path analysis. It could be the SEM, structural equation modeling. The best is you must have the over 200 sampling, the respondent. That's why when you want to study, make sure that if I think that you want to study about the public relation officer only in the Jakarta, but then maybe one, I think that company, they only have the one officer. So in that case, they maybe don't have, I think, many officers, and they're so busy. It could be only, they have only a 250 only. So in that case, I think that it is not favorable to use a quantitative method. I would say that you change to the qualitative method. You just do the interview, or you just do maybe a focus group only. So to determine if you have the population, you cannot force yourself to choose the quantitative or the qualitative. It also depend on the phenomenon. What is your sample size? Yeah, so these I think are quite important. If you study about the health literacy, study about the IT literacy, study about maybe people I think that using the games, yeah, your sample study is a gamers. Okay, there's a lot of gamers I think that's in this I think that the country. But if you have a very specific, yeah, people only, for example, that you want to study about could be the director or the CEO or the companies. So how many of them? There are not many, unless they can have a big sample the whole Jakarta. So then I think they're okay. But you need to consider about the budget that you have. I think that can you travel? I think that's quite, and because I think that study about the CEO, they are so busy, yeah. So they maybe won't be able to answer your question. So you need to think all of these. Okay. So when it comes to the experiment, you need to consider the realistic nature of the setting and or the task. This I think that during maybe a psychology, you can use in the mass communication, use framing theory, right? Manipulation of the treatments, use of the control group. I think the advertising also we have that. So the advertising, you study about the advertising, you need to know that the group, I think that you can have that maybe 2 or 3 groups when you study about the nature of the sample use, All right, lack of the control over the confounding variable due to the non-random assignment or inability for the matching. All right. Okay. Move on to the typical. I think the quantitative research typically involve the counting and measuring. This I think that I already mentioned that. Often statistical tests are applied to detect the confirmed trends. Okay. And then the purpose to get a clear-cut, precise, and accurate results, as I mentioned that, yeah, factual reflecting the situation under the study. Whether this, I think that, will show in their descriptive analysis or inferential analysis, okay? Questionnaire is one of the popular tools for the quantitative research method. So normally we use a questionnaire only, yeah? And then, okay, before we go further, I think it's about 11. Do you want, I think that, the break, 5 minutes break, perhaps? Okay.
I will let the participant to decide. Do we have any short break?
Okay, maybe you just have the 5 minutes break so that, maybe they will, I think that's, could be digest some of the input that I give you. Maybe I'm too quickly, or maybe after this they have a question. So I love to answer the questions.
Yes, we will have the question and answer session after this. And then if you're okay with that, I think you also need a break, sir. So we will have a 5-minute short break. So please do, I don't know, refreshment or whatever we need to do, maybe a bit stretching for ourselves for 1 hour sitting in front of the monitor. So let's have the 5 minutes break. Thank you.
Okay, right. Thank you.
Okay, dearest participants and our honorable guest, Associate Professor Dr. Zulhamri Abdullah, our 5 minutes break is over now, so we can continue our session about the qualitative method. Please, Associate Professor Dr. Zulhamri, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much, Devi. All right, as survey step by step. Okay, first I think that define the problem. Okay, the survey topics. Second, you have to use the previous studies and expert advice, meaning that your supervisors, all right, your check your literature. Okay, after that, you need to develop your research question and research objective, at least three research question and 3 research objective. And this must be measurable, like the one that I showed you. Okay, and then the study population and sample size. Who's your respondent? What's the criteria of your respondent? Very, very important. And then you can develop the preliminary questionnaire, right? And pretest questionnaire, all right? You can do the pilot study, all right? Maybe selecting 30 to 40 respondent. After that, you have to use the crossbar alpha, okay? This is in your SPSS to assess the reliability or the internal consistency of your set of the questions, okay? Make sure that you get at least 7.7, 0.7s above, right? The best is a 0.9. And then develop the plan or data analysis for the descriptive analysis and inferential analysis. And then you can write your finding interpretation. And that's it, right? For your, I think, the survey. All right, let's, I think that for focus on the questionnaire. All right, if you want to do the questionnaire, now I think it's quite popular. You can use, the online questionnaire. But I think that previously people used in a mail questionnaire. I did my PhD, I used a mail questionnaire. So I spent a lot of money for that, for the develop envelopes, the postage, quite difficult. Web-based, you can use some, I think that the SurveyMonkey, for example, there's also a free application for the web-based. Group, this maybe you can do the physically, okay, by group. Also for the questionnaire, email, also you can just blast the email to the particular group, like employees, for example. Interview here meaning that it's a structured interview. I don't mean that not interview in the qualitative, not only the 10 to the 15 people. So the interview, it could be a phone call. You can do the phone call interviews. So you call, I think that your I think the respondent one by one. So these are very, very expensive as well. I think the quite popular now is a WhatsApp. We can use the WhatsApp to develop the questionnaire. So you just use, the online, use the Google Drive. In your Google Drive, you can check in Google Drive. You just develop the questionnaire for free, and then it just click that, and then it just blast to your respondent. Very, very easy, and you can get, I think there's a very high response as well. Okay, so basically the questionnaire advantages of broad coverage. You can using the questionnaire, I think the online questionnaire now, you can penetrate the local, national, international. Frank and anonymous answers, make sure that you don't include their names, but you can make it optional, asking them whether they can, I think, that provide the email address. Don't make it as compulsory. Yeah. So economical for the large population, yes, and then the less time consuming. So because when you blast the questionnaire, the WhatsApp, a lot of people can see this by group. We also have the group WhatsApp group community, the Facebook community, for example. So that also quite easy to get your data. Quantitative data, easy to analyze, of course, because using the SPSS, you just do the data entry, and then I think that you can select any, I think, that measurement analysis that you want. And filling at the convenient times, okay, especially using the WhatsApp, you can just, quickly do this within the 5 to 10 minutes only. The questionnaire, easy to respond, fixed responses, good for the sensitive and eco-related question. Some maybe are quite, example that the issues, for example, you want to do the interview is quite difficult. So you just, I think that, you use the questionnaire, people maybe answer this, I think, and then the original, hard to obtain. Yeah, because sometimes I think the data are also sensitive. I think that, maybe we get the data from the perceptions only. And then disadvantages, no clarification for the ambiguous question. You need the further question. So not yes and answer only. Yeah, we need more, I think, the question about why and how. So normally for the quantitative, it is about what. Okay, what and which. Okay, so because it's only the, and then the inadequate motivation to respond. Some, I think, if you study about, the manager, I think quite difficult to get response because they are so busy, entrepreneur, poorly worded and direct questions, all right? So, and then the unattractive style and format, maybe I think that the disadvantage is also low response rate, sometimes quite difficult, very, very difficult to get the response from the respondent. So we need to do a lot of follow-up. So I think that this also be frustrated we do the questionnaire. Inaccurate responses, no verification. It may be, I think that they just lie in that they're just ticking the box only, without, I think, that meaning that what they, really say. Limited fixed responses, okay, because everything is a fix already, so you just answer based on the answers been given. All right, and then they cannot uncover causes relationship. For example, that is, I think, that quite difficult to answer. I think that more, I think that, the factors why they choose this, they answer the question. So it's quite limited as well. The type of the questions are basically factual, age, gender, education, experience. Okay, and then the informative, what students know about given topics. So this also may be part of this. Attitudinal, attitudinal and opinion to obtain info about the respondent belief, feelings, values. So that also may be. So normally when you question, you can say that I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied with the government's initiative. So the words like that is considered is a feeling. Self-perception allows subject to compare their ideas and action with others. You can do the comparison as well. So you can do the ANOVA analysis using the ANOVA. Maybe I think you have 2 or 3 groups. Yeah, ANOVA also analysis. Okay. Other setup questions, standard of action, how respondent will act in the situation. So maybe we want to quick, I think that, to get results, for example, the next election. So this also may be especially the anti-vaccine issue. Now also I think that the anti-vaccine issue movement in many countries. So that maybe we cannot get, I think that's, 100%. The COVID still, I think that be around. Okay, projective question allow respondent to answer in an indirect manner by imposing their feelings, attitude, belief, and others. For example, that maybe you can ask about the student happy with the grading scheme. So I think that could be, I think, the measurement very positive. Even I think for our organization, our departments. Another possible categorization of question, unstructured question, allow respondent to reply freely without having to select one or several provided responses. Okay, open-ended, useful to exploratory studies in which a various dimension and facet of problems are examined. Yeah, usually difficult to analyze responses for the structured and unstructured. Okay, usually low response rate as well. Okay, the structured question, normally I think that dichotomous yes or no, especially for the descriptive analysis. Normally for the questionnaire in our I think that our earlier, I think that's just ask a simple question only. All right, and then multiple choice question. Maybe we're going to ask about the what source. I think that how many hours you are using the spend hours. I think that using the TikTok, for example. Yeah, how satisfied are you with the quality of cafe A food, for example? So you can, I think that ask a simple question. Like contingencies determine the respondent is qualified to answer the subsequent question. Some of the question I think that you need to, I think that segregate, or maybe I think that determine that some of the question may be relevant to some people only. Okay. All right. So like skills. Okay. This I think that for the structured question, unstructured question, normally for descriptive analysis. Let's when you develop the hypothesis. You need normally we use a type scales. Okay, each response aligned to a numerical ranking based on the continuum that contain a determines unit of measurement. So normally, I think that we just ask, I think, the 5 racket scale from the strongly unimportant to the strongly important. Okay, so that I think that you need to have maybe think that, you know, measure the variables. For this, I think a racket scale is quite important, I think, for the hypothesis. So then maybe you can use this. All right. Others, I think, the scaling response about this, I think that this maybe want to use that for the set of the bipolar adjective pairs. I think I did this as well when I studied about the student development in Cambodia and Malaysia comparison. We do the comparison, we do the ranking also. You can ask a question about the ranking as well. Okay, most preferred, less preferred, I think that, yeah. Questions, opening questions, start with the easy first, all right, and then the sequence. Okay, sensitive question, maybe you can develop difficult questions. Personal data, okay, personal data I think is quite important as well. Okay, when you develop the objective, make sure that you have all these questions, objective 1, 2, and 3. Unlike the qualitative, no question about that. But for the objective, we need to have, I think, a very specific, I think, that we develop the every objective, you must know that what is the measurement that you can use. Okay, regarding the issues in research design, all right, the nature of the sample that normally the random or versus stratified. Random is you can pick, like, I think if we have, I think, the database like 1 to 10, we're going to select the 2. Okay, the 2, 4, 6, and that is a random. Stratified, meaning that, you know, you have a particular place, like you want to study about the West Java, you also have the East Java, so you have 2-3 places that you want to study. Convenience sampling, this I think that like shopping, for example, you just go, I think that maybe you have the Facebook, you know, so just a blast to the, you know, to those, I think all the, you know, the users, maybe 1,000 people in the Facebook community, they can answer the question. Student versus a fields-based sample. Size sample, I think that we already discussed about that. Data, resources, self-report also can be, I think, the issue, common method variance. Okay, so make sure that you know that similar response format, consider bias of participant, unreliability and measure. That's why I'm saying that the consumer alpha, I think, is quite important. Social desirability also, maybe the concern about, you know, maybe a double barrels in your questionnaire. I think that, you know, so check, you need to have the review for your integrity of the and also that the suitability of the questionnaire before you distribute this. Okay, I give you some example here. This is my research for the public relation and corporate communication people. So I did the mixed method, quantitative analysis and qualitative analysis. You can see that that was, I think, about 2004. That was like, you know, 10, 15 years ago. Okay, right. And then this for my research theoretical model of CSR reputation. I developed the hypothesis. This published in the Social Responsibility Journal. Yeah, and we can use also, this is my award-winning paper, Emeralds. I won this Emeralds paper for the developing the online corporate identity using the content analysis. For the content analysis, you can use the quantitative or the qualitative, depends. You need to develop the metrics like this and then come up with a metric like this and appoint, you need, whether you be the coder or you can, I think, appoint the coder based on this. And this based on the brand personality index. You need to have that. So maybe I can share you some of the examples. I think the important examples of the paper that I can share with you the slide. Don't worry about that. Let's see the CSR rotation. So this is the one that I show you, yeah, about how I study about, you know, develop the variables. Okay, institutionalizing a corporate society, the effect of corporate reputation, culture, and leadership in Malaysia. So you can find this in Emeralds. Okay, study about how I develop the model of the CSR communication, CSR initiative, one of the examples. So this is how you need to develop the framework. I think that may be a different session. 2 hours is not enough. Okay, even 1 hour and a half is not enough for me to teach you how to develop this framework. Yeah, but I can say that this is an IV. Okay, this is a DV. Okay, so how I think that DV, I think that will affect the IV defect the DV here. So you can read that how I developed the hypothesis, like for example, the CSR initiative are correlated positively with the corporate reputation. So you can spice your word when you develop the hypothesis. Yeah, depends on how you like this. Okay, let's see some of the other example. This I think that we developed with Ibu Kikin. Recently, I think that's published in Journal of Management Information Sciences, the latest one. I think we have from the Pakistan's also, from Universitas Jenderal Sudirman, we developed the health information seeking and behavioral intention. This only we developed the conceptual framework, no data yet. Maybe later, when we study about the health care industry, you need to come up with some, I think, the literature here to make it that using the theory, what I think that the theory that relevance for your study. And this is a theoretical model, it's quite important. And then after that, you will be able to develop your own conceptual model, you see? So based on the literature, okay? Literature is very, very important. So from this literature, you need to specify what is your variable. We see that the variable that we have here, I just go quickly. Hypothesis information quality has a positive significant effect of the OHIS intention. This I think that they're based on the theory, yeah? So, and then we do the mediating variable for this one as well, okay? Let's see the model that we develop, information quality. These are IV, independent variables, and we have the DV, HOISH intention, and these are our mediating variables. Okay, that's what moderating variables. Okay, other studies that I can show you. How about the online? Maybe if you like to do the content analysis. Okay, this content analysis, the one that I won for the awards, published in Marketing Intelligence Bank. This also need to have, I think that's a very good literature. Okay, you check literature, you write, I think that's some of the dimension, and based on the brand dimension occur, all right, the theory. And then from that, we use, I think, the measurement, the coding metric I show you. And then we develop these users questions. We do the comparison between the Malaysian and Singaporeans organizations. That's use the brand dimension in their vision. So only that study the website of the company. Yeah, we check in the website of the company. Those I think about the sample of the companies, the sampling about the Malaysia stock exchange, all right, the main market sampling. And then based on that, they have think that, you know, these selected for reason, you need to have the criteria, okay, criteria for the sampling. We have studied about the random systematic sampling of 283, yeah, out of the 860, yeah, meaning that 30% for the Malaysian. For this, I think there's a study, Malaysian companies, and 214, we want to do the comparison. So if you want to do the comparison, then we develop based on the coding system. So we use this, and then we select those aspects. And how I develop the coding system, it based on this coding system based on the Ingerforth and Ferrer 2010s. This I think that you need to check the coding system from here. So from that, we develop the system, and then we come up with a study like this. Okay, the result will be on using the descriptive analysis only. But this is considered is an advanced descriptive analysis. So we look at the industries. I think that's, you know, content analysis only. These are content analysis of quantitative. Yeah, you can do that. I think it's quite popular for the news. Content news. You want to study about the politician speech, you can do the brand content analysis as well. Here, I think that we check only based on the websites, okay, the uniqueness based on this. I think these are based on the theory, okay, brand visibility index, and then we got the results, and then we do the interpretation of these results, and after that we come up with things that's with the study and the analysis, the chi-square, all right, chi-square, I think the results, all right, and come, I think that's with the conclusion that we have. All right, that's about it. And I think if you want to know about those are studying about maybe close to home, Indonesia, let's see that maybe about the factors influencing the millennials online healthy food information sharing behavior during the COVID-19 pandemic. This is the latest one, okay, by I think that from the Jakarta, I like the Emeralds database because they have, I think, a very systematic abstract like this: purpose, design method, finding, research, practical. So you need to make sure that your dissertation get published once I think completed. Okay, you don't want to just, I think, that put in the shelf only, yeah, your thesis. You get it published, yeah. Work with your supervisors, work with, I think, that someone that who has, I think, that published in your paper, whether it's a Scopus or the WAS, Web of Science, preferably, yeah. You can publish this. I think that's, many, I think that Jakarta, I think that, the scholars also publish their works here. So these, I think, are quite interesting. I can share this with you, the literature, okay. Find your research gaps. I think that's quite important. Develop your hypothesis like this. We got the objective. The 6 objective here. Wow, I think that's, so I think the reading this, I think, are quite interesting about the online health food information sharing behavior, right? And then develop the conceptual model like this, okay. So there's many ways that you can develop but I like the one that I show you, okay. Easy for us to understand that which one is the IV, the DV, okay. So quite interesting study. And this is one of the could be the hypothesis that you can develop. Perceived threat of the COVID-19 positively and significantly influence the millennials' online healthy food information sharing behavior during the COVID-19 pandemics. E-health literacy. We publish a lot. I publish with the Ibu Kikin. We publish a lot since last year. Okay, about the health literacy, health communication with the. I think that's interesting to have the collaboration between the Malaysia and Indonesia. And also this year we have a collaboration with the Pakistan's scholars as well. Yeah, I like to have that my work with the international intention as well, not only from Malaysia. So we are talking about the global village now. Let's make it, I think, as our regionals. I think that's okay. One thing I think when you develop the questionnaire, for the like it skill, you cannot develop on your own. So these, I think that, the very good tips. Do not develop your own questionnaire. You need to develop a questionnaire based on literature, like this one, okay? So check the literature, use that from the literature. You maybe, this study, maybe it could be about the Johnson & Johnson. Okay, you in Jakarta, you study, I think that maybe local pharmaceutical companies. So you just change, the word. So it is not plagiarism. Don't worry about that. The questionnaire is not plagiarism, but make sure that you need to declare this adapted from which adapted. Okay, make sure you know that which, I think that's the question that you develop. When you construct, you have to make sure that you pick from which literature, all right, like this one, and then you're going to list this in the research method chapter. You need to have that, yeah. So that from this, and this, I think that they already simplified. You can check, you can ask the this scholar, can I get your questionnaire? All right, some of them quite generous to share the questionnaire. Do not develop your own questionnaire. You're not allowed it. Even me, I think that as a scholars also, we're not allowed. We must based on literature published in this scopus on WAS. Okay. So when you develop the e-health literacy, okay, you have to, I think that's, okay, you refer to the Norman and Skinner. So how many items here? All right. So maybe there's also the e-health literacy from other, for example, that Alhu Wailan, Abdul Salam. Okay, there's a two. Then you combine here. Yes, that one is allowable. But you cannot just, I think that simply, or e-health literacy, I think I'm going to just, develop my own, the ability of blah, 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 blah. No, cannot you do that, right? Okay. So when we determine the variables, you have to find that these variables in the literature, find the items that I think that this already confirmed. Yeah? This already confirms and developed by scholars in the literature. Then you combine them. That is how you develop your survey questionnaire. For the causal and inferential research. Okay. For the descriptive analysis, no problem. You can do free to do that. Okay, descriptive analysis. For example, that you want to know that how many people that spending, yeah, maybe you can say that the question like how many hours spending to fiddling with your TikTok. Okay, no problem. Yeah, but for the like skill, for the causals, no, you're not allowed to do that. You must always based on literature. So I'm telling you, this is a very, very important information when you develop your questionnaire. Otherwise, oh my God, if you finish, I think that you've done your data collection, you be caught that develop your own items. Oh my God, then you need to do the, maybe you need to revive or recollect your data again. Because I think that you can see that because when you develop the more using the more advanced analysis, you can see that the factor analysis results. Maybe we are going to discuss some of the questions in the items. Okay, so these are, I think, the results when you do the factor loading into more advanced results. So the constant alpha coefficient 0.8 here, meaning that all I think that is items. You can see that. So I think that the beauty of using the quantitative, we can get, I think, this a very, I think that's in the results. I think that's in a direct from the SPSS. So it's quite difficult for the examiner to question us. Why this like this? Why this like this? So you can get the result. You can prove that, 0.8, so we'll be happy. When we go for the Viva, we submit for the result. So the examiner can question that because we already have the 0.8 here. For the qualitative, yes, it's open for the question. So it's quite difficult. You need to have the very good in terms of, I think, that articulate, I think, that what you want to study. But here, you don't have to worry. The result will tell you. The result will help you to defend your thesis. Okay. If I think that this is below, maybe a 0.5, so maybe I think that some of the, I think the conformal alpha, I think below, you can just discard it. From the, this is 6 E-8, maybe you can just, I think, report it maybe a 4 only. Because why I think that you discard, as we know, we ask why you discard this number 5 and 6, or because the alpha is 0.5. So this, I think that maybe it show, I think that is not valid. Okay, then you can have that 4 only. Then as simple as that. Yeah. So I think that this already can come up with, I think that the model fit when you use, the SPSS, okay, letter. And the demography, you can see that this descriptive analysis, okay. I think you can follow this one as well, all right. So I think this study give, I think, they presented, I think, details about the descriptive and inferential analysis. Very good. I think this also may be for the, and you can see that the regression model, okay, quite simple, IV and DV, all right. IV, I think that this, I think my study also have that some of the variable here, and the DV about the OHIS, the one that I show you, all right. So then we got the, I think, the very good, I think, the results here. That's why your paper get published, and you have to come up with the theoretical implication, practical implication as well. Yeah, and then the conclusion. Okay, I can share you this study. I think that's a very straightforward paper. Some paper is quite difficult to understand. Even I think that you try to read, you don't understand because some maybe is quite advanced. Yeah, advanced, and I think that's what they have. They don't, I think, that reveal everything here. But for this, I think the study is quite difficult, easy for us to understand that. Okay, I think that I opened the question. We have 15 minutes. If there are any questions from the floor.
Thank you, sir. And yeah, maybe dear participant, we're gonna have the Q&A session. So feel free to raise your hand and tell your question directly to Dr. Zulhamri here, or do you prefer to write it in the chat box? It's also allowed, and then we can read it for Mr. Zulhamri here.
Itu yang di chat Bu Ami ada yang bertanya, udah di ini belum ya?
Iya.
Dari Metsalina Tantri.
Belum. Di mana ya, Pak?
Oh, ini belum. Baru dibaca, Cik.
Okay, one from Andri. Could you explain about quasi-experiment? Is it categorized as an action research?
Is it, could you explain about the quasi-experiment? Is it categorized as an action research? Okay, quasi-experiments. Okay, to be honest, that I'm not familiar with the experiments, but of course that for the action research, you need to have that. I think it's a part of the action research because and it would be, I think, the available if you study about the advertising, for example, going to show, I think, that the photos, I think the advertisings, videos, maybe about 1 minute to the respondents or participants, and then going to answer the question. I think this answer is yes. It's about a part of the action research.
Okay. In previous chat, we have also question from Mitsalina, Ibu Mitsalina. I would like to asking about the propensity score matching, difference in difference and instrumental variable.
Propensity score matching. Can you explain more about that?
Ibu Mitsalina, ada. Silakan Ibu Mitsalina, Bu Tantri.
Are you referring to the experiments survey or referring to the survey?
Bagaimana Bu Tantri? Terkait ke surveinya kah atau seperti apa?
Okay, as far I'm concerned, maybe it is about the experiments. Normally, it's using in the experiments. Okay, when you do the scoring about that, not in the survey. No survey. I think that we don't use. I think about the propensity score matching. Yeah.
About the regression.
Yeah.
Dr. Zulhamri, yeah.
About the regression.
Yes.
regression analysis. We have a two. Normally, it's a two type for the basic inferential analysis. One is a correlation. Correlation, you just want to know whether the positive and negative relationship. And then once I think that you know the positive relationship, significant relationship, you want to know the strength. Regression is referring to the strength of the relationship. So I think that, you just will focus on the how strong relationship between the these IV and DV variables. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zulhamri. Is there any other question from the participants? I myself do have a question, but I will let other participants first.
Okay. Or is there any different? Different what? Is it between the regression and correlation? Or what? If we study about the correlations, I think it would be the hypothesis. When you think that construct the hypothesis, it's very good that you need to come up with the regression as well, because the correlation only is not enough, right? So you need to have come with the regression analysis, like the one that the articles that I show you, so that we give you, I think, details about, I think that, what is the strength of the analysis. For example, that let's say, I think the score, it depends also whether the significant value is a 0.5, 0.05. So I think that's quite important also. You need to highlight that. And then once I think that you got these results, when you come up with the regression, it show that you have a complete, I think that's, and then show this proven results, the hypothesis, whether it will be rejected or be supported, because that is the results that the examiners always looking for. When you say that rejected is a correlation only, it is not enough. You come up with the regression, we show that the strength of the relationship, whether the positive or negative relationship. So I think that the after you think that show the correlation, you also can show the regression for that hypothesis as well. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
Oh, berarti harus dibuka dong.
Sorry, Pak Zul.
Yeah.
Maybe I want to confirm and then to give motivate to the participant that as our article in the published of the Scopus at the Q2, right?
Yeah, Q2.
It's not the all the article have published the whole finished research.
Yeah.
You had already said that hypothesis about the theory or hypothesis, and then you could publish at the Scopus journal, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the all participant is a student of a PhD candidate or the magister candidate could be follow the SUR. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you, Pak Zul.
Okay. Thank you, Ibu. So for the publication, normally in the Malaysian university, it is a requirement for the PhD or the master student to get their work published in the Scopus and the Web of Science. But to get a published, some paper is a full paper. The one that I show you, some maybe in a full paper. The paper that I did with Ibu Kikin, that one is a conceptual paper. It is not finished. It's not complete paper. So later maybe we can think that study I think that we come up with data collection, something like that. So there is a paper that conceptual paper can be accepted when you want to publish as well. So no problem. Okay. But if I think that university did not require you to get published, no problem. I think that you just concentrate on finishing your dissertation only. Okay.
Because Pak Zul, this is the postgraduate program in ONJ or in Indonesia.
Yeah.
If you want to graduate, you must publish article in a for the PhD program, must publish at the PhD at the Scopus journal, and then for the
Yes.
magister level
Yeah.
is for in Indonesia is Sinta
Yeah.
journal, right? Maybe you
Wow.
could give some best practices for publish for them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. In that case, so that is quite ambitious. Okay, so you need to work closely with your supervisor or with, I think that's, the scholars to get your work published. Otherwise, you cannot graduate. All right, the university will postpone your graduation until you get your work published. Yeah, so you can check in the Scopus database. Now Scopus database even, I think, they're very strict. So to approve, I think sometimes it will take some time to get to get your work published in the Scopus. Even I think that already published in the journal, like the one that we have a Bukikin, but it will take some time, I think, to get it published in the Scopus database. Okay, so that normally I think that I will say that it's a very, very important. If you want to get your work published in the Scopus, you need to have a full data, okay, full paper. With the data analysis, I think the easier to get your work published. I think we have the Pak Darsono. Please comment on the minimal population data processing for the ACM AMOS. Oh, okay. So this I consider is a very advanced. Okay, we need another session to talk about the advanced analysis. So in this, I think the lecture, I think, is very short. We can discuss about this. But you can, I think that always, I think that prefer that. But before you develop this, you need to have developed the conceptual framework first, right? Make sure that you have you understand, fully understand your theoretical model, and then your conceptual framework. Perhaps I think that you also need to come up with, the mediating and auto monitoring variable. So once I think that you develop that, then we can talk about your SEM, Listral and the Smart PLS. So no point that, to have this analysis if you don't have, I think, that the solid conceptual framework yet. Yeah. Please understand we have the 3 variable, IV, DV, and also MV. MV2, whether the monitoring variable or the mediating variable. Once you understand that, I think that will be easier. I think that's, you can choose that, whatever, I think the data processing that you want. Yeah, you can use the path analysis also, maybe to develop, I think, a better the model fit. Yeah, model fit for your conceptual framework. Okay, Assalamualaikum. How to make the result of the questionable unbiased? Okay, the results, unbiased. That's why I'm saying, so development of the questionnaire item is very important. Okay, for the descriptive analysis, no problem. That one is okay. You can develop, you can construct on your own based on literature, based on maybe your own opinion. But for the inferential analysis, no. This one must based on literature. That's why the one that I show you, when you have a based on the adoption, yeah, you adapt from the other literature and list down, I think, those are variable, then the examiner won't question whether it's a bias. Okay, especially you need to have the theoretical model. What is your theoretical model? Once you have this theoretical model, and then you also, I think, they include I think that you need to discuss every hypothesis. Yeah, when you develop hypothesis, you need to have 1 or 2 paragraphs to discuss about the one particular hypothesis. So you need to have that one by one, not just a list of hypotheses. If you have 10 hypotheses, you just list down. No, it doesn't work that way. You need to have that rationale of the hypothesis, because the hypothesis development, Then I think that once I think that you come with this, that's number one. Number two, to avoid the unbiased questionnaire, you need to also use, you know, the Canva Alpha. All right. So you can come up with, I think, the one that I show you, 0.7 above. I think it shows that your questionnaire is a very good items. Okay. So that I think that quite simple. Okay. Other question from Pak Andri Povanto. What should we write in the results of research in the journal if our research is a quantitative research? Okay. The result, I think this question is quite general. The results must based on the data analysis that we do. Okay, so if you develop the conceptual frameworks, all right, your conceptual framework, you just that one is a hypothetical model only. Okay, it will be proven by the data processing that we said. If you use a SEM, you have this, you know, the results. You show that the results. Then when you have this, show the results, then you write your results based on the data analysis that you do. Then you can, I think that will be, I think that easier for you to get your work published in the Scopus or Web of Science, DCR. Okay. So I think that the quantitative research is, I think it's quite easier to get published rather than the qualitative research. Yeah, you can choose that from the, when you got, I think that the conceptual frameworks, I think because normally for the quantitative research is a very, very objective. Okay, you have your IV, you have the DV, you have a conceptual framework, you have your theoretical model, and all these must link from the beginning. Yeah? Problem statement, your research objective, research questions, and your, I think, the analysis. And I think that so when you have the advanced analysis like SEM, Listrals, Smart PLS, so easier for you to get your work published. Any other question? Normally for the PhD, you need to come up with the advanced analysis. For the masters, I think it will be enough. You have only the correlation and regression only, but this depends on the school. Yeah. And also maybe also if you want to get your work published in Indonesian journal, Scopus Web of Science Indonesian journal also maybe quite easier, because some, I think that maybe a Western journal, they also have the different standards. Okay, different standards. Sometimes quite deep. For example, Harvard Business Review. No one can publish in Harvard Business Review, except, you know, those, you know, the top scholar only. So sometimes it could be, I think there's a politics as well here, there. So you need to think about that. But if you go, I think that for the top publisher like Thales and Francis, Emeralds, you know, Springer, I think there's no bias about that. But the scope is quite important. Yeah. Check the scope of the study. If you fall under the scope of the study, no problems. Any other question?
Bu Ami, izin mungkin ada request Bu Ami. Pak Julhamri ini ininya di apa ya? Spesialisasinya Bu Ami?
Mine's in communication.
Oh, communication ya.
Yeah.
Communication is that.
Nah, ya, saya ada request mungkin
studies.
sedikit ini apa, kalau misalkan berkenan untuk menjadi reviewer nanti di beberapa jurnal pasca yang internasional, Bu Ami.
Ya, bisa Pak.
Okay. Terima kasih.
Pak Zul senang banget pasti. Thank you Mas Da, Bade.
Luar biasa Bu Tintin, terima kasih banyak.
Amin, sama-sama.
Amin.
We have another question here from Ibu Sri Mulyana. How could we find the novelty if only one variable or descriptive research?
Okay, this is a very good question. from Ibu Moliana. Sometimes people always see that to get our work published, we will have to use advanced analysis. Not necessary, actually. It is not necessarily. The one that I show you, my content analysis, I just use content analysis on the chi-square. It is also descriptive analysis. Okay, it is not the inferential analysis. And one, I think that Emerald's winner. So it depends on the novelty. What I think that the topic first. We have to focus on the topics. Yeah, the focus of the topics. What I think that's maybe the trends, the new trends. For example, the COVID-19, talking about that. So you have to check in the literature also. What is it important in the literature? For example, now we're talking about the health. Yeah, the novelty meaning that the new research, new research being done. So in health communication, what is the new trends? You have to explore about that. So not just about, I think that we're talking about the advanced analysis only, but the topic is quite important. Yeah. In the marketing, for example, okay, in the marketing, what I think that the important part that in the marketing we're talking about, are we talking about the social marketing now? So you're not just talking about the 4 P's only, which is that referring to the price, product. So maybe you also need to come up with something that referring to the I think the new variables, for example, the sustainability development, for example. So maybe people are going to differentiate between the CSR and sustainability. They mentioned that maybe a CSR is only the philanthropy donation only. When we talk about the sustainability, so going to be, so you need to understand the literature perfectly. So I think that with the help from your supervisor, you could understand that the focus on the topic is quite important. So I did some of my descriptive analysis only, even with the just I think a basic, but the topic is quite important. The one that I study about the regulatory impact analysis, that one from the regulatory impact analysis in the agricultural studies, but focusing on more to the marketing, agricultural marketing studies. So that very, very popular, and my work get published as well. So please understand what is in new trends, what I think that's a novelty that you can create based on your, I think that's your studies. So then when you develop this novelty, for example, that the one that I show you, CSR reputation, right? So we understand that the CSR is quite common words. So when I use a word like CSR reputation, wow, this is something new. This is something novelty. This has never been done yet, but mentioned a couple of times, maybe in the literature. But no one, I think that's the study. It's going to be like, I think it's quite be maybe unexplored in Asian country. Maybe in even in Western country also, maybe it could be some study about CSR reputation, but I explore more about the CSR reputation in Asian country. So that's make my paper novelty. Then it can get published. Okay, we also have the some question. Is it?
No.
I got the direct message actually from.
I see. Okay.
Okay. They said that about, thank you for explanation. I'm Vivi, doctoral student in human resource management. I'm interested in your research related to the public relation. Can you be part of the research, my research regarding? Oh, that's why they make it the direct. So no problem, you can email me. So those I think that have the personal intention, you want to invite me, okay? So you just email me. I will answer your some of your questions, okay? Human resource management variables. Okay, that is a human resource. I think the studies. There's a lot of study about that. So then maybe you need to explore about the psychology theory, management theory, organizational theory. So these I think is connected. I think the research design is very, very important. How you, I think that you need to see that this is like a mapping strategy. Right, I like to use the words mapping strategy, because when you say the mapping strategy, you need to connect the dot between your topic, your research problems, your research methods, and research analysis, and then you do the interpretation. Then you're going to come up with a grand story. What is a grand story about your research? Okay.
Okay, we still have time for the question and answer session. For all the participants, please do not hesitate to say your question directly here, or it is also okay if you want to use Indonesian, because I think Pak Zulhamri understand Indonesian as well.
Yeah.
While waiting, maybe I will ask my question.
Yeah.
Okay, sir, maybe I'm more to qualitative researcher because I work in early childhood education, so maybe quite different. And some of what the debate between using the quantitative or qualitative method in the field of early childhood education, it's like become stronger now, because we see the weaknesses of catching the data or reveal about early childhood education related to learning and children's development. It's really hard with the quantitative method. So I would like, I will bring it in general. What do you think about the certain field? How to use, like comparing the quantitative method and then the qualitative method for the purpose of the research? Do you have like kind of like maybe tips or reasoning why we do use the quantitative, or sometimes maybe with the weaknesses of the quantitative method we have to move to the qualitative? What do you think about that?
Okay, thank you very much, Devi, for the questions. It depends on the phenomena that you want to study. So it's about the inquiry. So you study about the childhood. I think that's, so we want to see that what is it, again, that we check in the literature. What is it, the trends now? So if we're talking about, if you, it depends when even in the qualitative study now, I think it's to make it a bit, they want to make it more, I think, stronger in terms of the results. That's why we need to use, the software. All right. So you can use software like NVivo or Atlas TI. Okay. So I just did my research, the qualitative research. I think that about the global capability for the public relation and corporate communication. We come up with, I think that, the construction framework. We do the analysis using the NVivo. So I think the NVivo, they also have the, you can come up, I think that's a very interesting word clouds. The word clouds. So maybe later, if we have that, I can show you how to do the, to show the, how wonderful, I think that, the qualitative research method as well, because you can have analysis. Compared to, I think that's, previously, the qualitative, they don't use any software. It's quite difficult because it's very time consuming. That's why I think that the student and also researcher don't like to do the qualitative, because you need to come up with, I think that your own thematic analysis. Yeah. So you have the thematic analysis, and then you just, I think that maybe based on the hands, only based on, I think that there's not solid data analysis going to do. But now I think that with the, I think that, with the NVivo, Atlas TI, you can have a very nice, I think that's, result as well. So I believe that whether you want to use a quantitative or the qualitative, it depends on the phenomena, what you want to study. So if we're asking about the, again, I mentioned about the why and how in childhood, I think we want to know that the, about the violence, I think that in childhood, for example, does it, what I think that we want to know more about this, I think that's, so maybe we want to have a specific answer for that. So perhaps I think that we can just interview a couple of peoples. Maybe for the interview, you need to have at least a 10 to the 15. You can come up with the in-depth interview, the structured interview, semi-structured interview. But for the qualitative, we prefer the in-depth interview. You can use the phenomenological methods or the ethnography methods to study about, but this is kind of time consuming. That's why some people like it, some people don't like it. but the result that we get is going to be wonderful, because you're going to create a new theory. You're going to, I think, that come up, I think that's something that easier for you to come up with the novelty, rather than ticking the box. That's why people say that, oh, the quantitative is just ticking the box and then just come up with the results, yeah, using the SPSS. But later, what important here is a novelty. What you study and what is the result? Can the result be used, I think, in our society? Yeah, for the development for the society, for development, for the industry. I think that's quite important. We need to develop something. Yeah, when we have the research, we have the come up with the results. The most important thing, how the result can contribute to solve the problem in the society. So I think that the difference between, I think, that about the inquiry, yeah, inquiry in the particular studies. And the best is you can come up, I think, with a mixed method by the John Creswell. I think that introduced. Why don't I think that we do the mixed method rather than it's a one methods only?
Thank you for your answer. Okay, from other participants, do you still have any more questions?
Excuse me.
Yes, please.
I want to know more explanation about how to exactly to find a moderate variable and intervening variable between the correlation independent variable and dependent.
Okay. The question about the moderating. Are you saying about the moderating or mediating variable?
Both of them. Both of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry that I cannot. I don't include the moderating material because I think it's a time consuming. We don't have much time to discuss about that. But if you want to discuss about the mediating and moderating variable, this is a variable that have an indirect relationship in the literature. Normally in the literature, they have an indirect relationship. Mostly, I think we're talking about we study about the corporate image, for example. What I think that, we see that service quality. Okay, the better the service quality, the better image of the companies. So that is a direct relationship. So we can say that, oh, IV and DV. So when we want to, maybe want to identify what are the factors. It could be other factors. For example, that factors about, let's say that we have something about, we're talking about the environmental awareness, for example. Does it really, I think that's, is there any literature that think help us when we have the environmental awareness, will also increase the corporate image of the company. So maybe there's no literature about that. So that's why you want to include. That's why you create that, the mediating or the mediating variable. So you want to, then I think that this, because indirect, maybe there is also research about that, but it's indirect relationship. So when you see that indirect relationship, we want to test whether this is a variable that has a direct relationship or indirect relationship. So maybe we also can see that whether the regression analysis about the NV and DV as well. So that's why we create the moderating variable. So there is also rule about whether this could be the mediating or mediating variable. I think that's need a long explanation about that. Okay, but I just mentioned that if you want to identify MV, make sure that it is the literature say that it is not indirectly. Yeah, I think that's variables that in the theoretical model. Maybe in the theory also did not suggest that. Want to include that. I think that I just give one example. For example, about the Feng Shui. Normally, I think that in Malaysia, we have a Chinese and Indian. They like, I think they're buying the property depend on the feng shui culture. Okay, but so normally we know that that when they have the property, I think they have a very good quality. So that I think that lead to the purchase intention. Lead that more people going to buy it. But no one in the literature, in the Western literature, about the feng shui culture. So the feng shui culture can be the mediating envy for our study. We can include that to show that, okay, we want to see that, in Asian country, this is a research gap. Not talking about, I think, that the better quality only, but the feng shui culture also must be there to, I think, that, to determine this. So that is our hypothetical, statement only. So we have to prove it. So when we prove it with the analysis that we have, then you can prove it, I think, whether the feng shui culture has influence on the, the DV that I think that's, you want to analyze. I hope that I answer your question. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Su.
Okay, what about other participants? We do still have time, quite a lot.
Okay, I just show you, type my email address in case that anyone to ask a question, specific questions, request, you can just email me. All right.
Mr. Zul,
Yeah.
I want to ask more about the independent variable as a cause and the dependent variable effect.
Yeah.
In the correlation of the cause and the effect, there is a term about an effect can be as a output or outcome and the impact something about something. So when we try to find a moderate variable, how about the difference output, outcome, and impact about an effect caused by the independent variable?
Okay, if I understand that your question, so what is the difference between DV and MV, right? So if we say that the DV is referring to the impact and effect only, yeah. So for the MV, I think that it is not determined whether it's a cause or the effect. Because it depends on indirect relationship. I think that's a variables there. Okay, so for the DV, yes, it must be based on the output. I think that the sample that the performance, adoptions, refer to the intention. So something that the results. But when come to the MV, it's just something different. So it shows that something, I think, that's not related. It's a non-related. It can be a non-reliable related variables. That maybe, I think that in the literature, your problem statement, you already highlight that. Yeah, you need to rationalize when you want to, I think, that pick the MV. But it can be also the aspect like you mentioned about the for example, study about the healthcare. You want to see that the loyalty, for example, yeah. So the customer loyalty, it can be MV as well. It can be DV as well. So sometimes I think that it depends on the literature, which literature that you follow. So normally, when you want to decide that which literature, make sure that you have the theoretical model. Which theoretical model that you follow, okay, in the literature. Yeah, you can see that the published conceptual framework for the one that I show you is already that published. Okay, about the or his health information. Okay, you can use that as a theoretical model. And you can add, I think maybe in that study, the article that I show you, they don't have the mediating MV yet. So you can add, to that model because already published. So MV. So in that case, you can also, I think, that find other non-related variable, but it also depends on the phenomena that you study. Sometimes I think that we want to develop, I think that we maybe whether we are rely on totally on the literature or we rely on the phenomena that happen around us. So this, I think that you need to do this carefully. So then, because you need to link back to your problem statement. What actually the problem statement say about that? So that require, I think, that more literature understanding. Your literature review understanding is quite important here. So when you understand your literature, may I know that which I think that your studies?
About organizational change.
Okay.
And the independent variable, leadership, transformational leadership, communication, and quality assessment.
Okay, I see that your study may be on the management studies, communication studies. Yeah, we're talking about the organizational change. So you need to understand the literature, broadly, not only I think that one only. So we're talking about the organizational change. We're talking about the technological change. We're talking about the leadership change as well. So these, I think, that require, I think, more understanding about that before you pick which I think that, the model that you want to find. And if you study in Indonesia, for example, so maybe I think that you can check, I think that, is there any study that been done about the organizational change in your local area, maybe in Jakarta. So if it's a study in the US only, so we can use that, but you can argue that. So maybe you can find other variables like leadership competence, for example. I can be the your MV as well. Leadership competence. So you want to see that how the organizational change this will lead. But please careful that when you choose the IV or DV, make it a more specific. You just make it the organizational change. That's not enough. That's very still broad. Yeah, we mentioned about the one that I show you. Yeah, leadership. So this is so broad. We're talking about transformational leadership. Talking about the democratic leadership. So there's also leadership style, for example. Some students, when they identify the terminology, the variable, it can be very, very broad. You need to be very, very specific. We're also talking about innovative leadership. Also different. There's also different literature. So make sure that you find the literature, and then you need to also do the operational definition. I think that better do the operational definition first. Yeah. So operational definition for your variables. All your variables, when you have the operational definition, then easier for you to determine whether what is your IV, what is your DV, what is your MV. Whether this is already, I think that enough or still broad. Yeah. So check with the supervisor. I think the supervisor will advise you whether that variables is specific enough to be used for your conceptual framework.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Zul.
Thank you very much. No problem.
What a discussion. So many questions came up from the participants, and the participant, please, you still can ask more questions related to your own research or dissertation or thesis here. And for me personally, I learned a lot because, as I said before, more of my research is in qualitative research. So a lot things to learn about the quantitative here for early childhood education. But I can see how this research method can support the new fundings to contribute to early childhood education knowledge.
All right.
Okay, participants, do you still have any more questions? No?
Cukup Bu Ami, sepertinya Bu Ami.
Okay, thank you, Mas Karisda. Yeah, it is more than 2 hours and a half. We've been discussed about the research method, specifically on quantitative research method, and it is really rich, really deep, from the concept, from the theory to the practical, how to use the research method in some examples based on Mr. Zulhamri's projects here. And then we've also seen how the result being published into articles, to many articles, and collaboration with other some universities in Indonesia. It's really good ones. And then we do really hope we can continue our collaboration here in Karis project, Pak Zulhamri, and further Mas Karisda here would like to invite you to other type of collaboration related to the journal reviewer. I think hopefully you still have time. I can see how busy you are with those class programs and also research project. And we will really appreciate your time and effort, and also being here with us to share your knowledge, your expertise in doing the research here. And we have maybe we would like to of course, if we can do this offline one day after this, we can take you around to in our university, or maybe a bit sightseeing in Jakarta. Even you have been visited us here in Jakarta quite often, but unfortunately due to the limited condition with the online version, but we still have a bit appreciation here. We have a certificate for you, sir. Hopefully this will be beneficial. I don't know in your university, but in ours, it is quite important for the speaker to have this. And this cannot say how much we appreciate your time, effort, and knowledge being here, but at least at this time, this is what we can do. This certificate is for you, Associate Professor Dr. Zulhamli bin Abdullah. Thank you very, very much for being here as a speaker in Research Camp Keris, organized by Postgraduate of Universitas Negeri Jakarta.
Thank you so much.
We hope we can.
I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Yes, we can build more discussion. We have some other clues already about the qualitative method or other data analysis part in doing quantitative research, as we discussed before. So it is kind of like potential topics to be developed more in other session. And but we considered your time and then your schedule. Feel free to let us know if you would like to have more session, and I do believe all the participants gonna look forward about more session on this quantitative research method.
Okay.
I think that's all from me. Do you have any closing, sir? Do you want to give like motivating words for other participants, or tips and tricks in finishing the studies in time?
Okay, I think it's the last words from me. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you very much, Ibu Kikin, and I think that's the rector from the Universitas Negeri Jakarta. I hope that all of you, I think that's will study more about the quantitative and qualitative research method. It is a very interesting study. I believe that your governments, I think that's very serious about this. Yeah, so they are, I think that's trying to develop better Indonesia. All right. So congratulations to the new government. I think that's so maybe we have more collaboration in the future. Okay. So I hope that through this education will change. I think that's our attitudes, our personality, and our lifestyles, and also for the better organic society. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, it's really thoughtful. And then, yeah, we do really use the opportunity for government to support our student here in Universitas Negeri Jakarta. Special thanks to Ibu Kinkin for connecting us to Dr. Zulhamri. We appreciate that a lot too.
Thank you, Mbak Ade, Mazda.
And yes, that's all for our session today, dear participants, and our honorable speaker from UPM, Universitas Putra Malaysia. And we do really hope to see you again all in other research camp session in Keris. And stay in touch and keep doing research. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Kita foto bersama dulu.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Boleh dinyalakan
Bersama dulu, Pak
kameranya,
Zul.
Bapak Ibu.
Boleh. Boleh, Bu.
Ya, mohon izin nyalakan kameranya, Bapak Ibu.
Abdullah, Profesor.
Baik, siap. 1, 2, 3. Sekali lagi, boleh diangkat tangannya, Bapak Ibu. Mantap. 1 jempolnya. 1, 2, 3. Ya, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Pak Zul.
Ya, thank you semua.
Thank you very much.
Pak Darsono angkat tangan, mau say something, Pak Darsono?
Ya, terima kasih Mr. Profesor Zulhan Abdullah,
Zulhamri,
semua
ya.
rekan-rekan dan terutama yang terkasih Ibu Kinkin,
Ya, terima kasih Pak Darsono. Thank
Mas
you.
Karisda yang baik.
Sama-sama. Terima kasih banyak.
Ya, Waalaikumsalam Bu.
Waalaikumsalam.
Ya, terima kasih semua.
Thank you Pak
Terima
Zul.
kasih Bu Kinkin, Bu Ami.
Ya,
Aduh.
thank you Mas Da. Ya, thank you.
Sehat-sehat ya. Assalamualaikum. Saya tutup.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you. Izin pamit. Bye-bye Pak Zul.
Sama-sama Bu Kinkin.
Ya, thank you Mbak Ade, Mas Da, Pak Darsono.
Ya.
Semuanya, thank you. Izin pamit.